I should have expected Harold Pemberton's call at 7 in the morning. In the 3 years since I'd married his son David, Harold had perfected the art of making me feel unwelcome in his carefully orchestrated family dynasty. Catherine, he began, using my full name despite knowing I preferred Kate. I've been considering today's graduation ceremony, and I believe it would be best if your children didn't attend. I paused while making breakfast for my twins, 8-year-old Marcus and 10-year-old Lily. They'd been excited about seeing their stepsister Sophia graduate for weeks. Could you clarify what you mean, Harold? Let's not pretend we don't understand the situation, he continued with his usual condescending authority. This graduation is significant for our family, and the photographs we create today will be preserved for generations. Your children, while unsure they're adequate, simply don't represent the image we want for posterity. I set down my coffee and walked to the window, looking at my children's bicycles scattered across our modest front yard. Harold's mansion was in exclusive Millfield Heights, where every detail was carefully curated for maximum social impact. I see, I said quietly, and David agrees with this decision. David understands the importance of family reputation. He's worked hard to build his position in this community, and we both agree today should focus entirely on celebrating Sophia's achievements. Your children would be distracting. The word hung in the air like a slap. Harold had never hidden his disdain for what he called my baggage from my first marriage. Of course, I said, surprising myself with my calm tone. I completely understand your position, Harold. We wouldn't want to compromise such an important family moment. I'm glad you're being reasonable, he said, relief evident in his voice. I was concerned you might become emotional or difficult. I almost smiled. Harold had no idea that emotional outbursts were luxuries I couldn't afford in my profession. As a senior forensic accountant at Morrison & Associates, I'd spent 12 years unraveling financial deceptions for powerful people. I'd learned to keep my expression neutral while discovering that respected businessmen had embezzled millions, and that family patriarchs often harbored the most devastating secrets. Not at all, I assured him. I appreciate your directness. We'll make other arrangements. Excellent. I'll see you and David at the ceremony. And Catherine? Let's keep this between us. No need to upset Sophia. After hanging up, I stood in my kitchen, listening to my children's laughter upstairs. The weight of my laptop bag sat nearby, containing files I'd been organizing for 6 months. Harold Pemberton, CEO of Pemberton Industrial Solutions and pillar of the community, had no idea his company's books had been flagged for irregularities by the State Commerce Commission. He certainly didn't know I was the forensic accountant assigned to investigate those irregularities, or that my findings suggested systematic financial fraud spanning nearly a decade. When David came downstairs adjusting his tie, I was dressed in my most professional navy suit. You look gorgeous, he said, kissing my cheek. Ready for our daughter's big day? Actually, there's been a change, I said carefully. Your father called. He feels it would be better if Marcus and Lily didn't attend. David's expression shifted from confusion to anger. What? Why? He's concerned about family images and photographs. He thinks the children might be distracting. That's ridiculous, David said, his voice rising. They're part of our family. It's okay, I interrupted. I've arranged for them to spend the day with my sister. David studied my face, recognizing something in my expression that made him pause. After 3 years of marriage, he'd learned to read my professional mask. Kate, what aren't you telling me? I smoothed his tie. Just that your father is about to learn some important lessons about family loyalty. Trust me. The graduation ceremony took place at prestigious Millfield Academy, where annual tuition exceeded many families' yearly income. Harold worked the crowd like the seasoned politician he'd become through years of community involvement. Everyone wanted to shake his hand or pose for pictures. Catherine? Harold's voice boomed after the ceremony. Come meet the Hendersons. Their daughter was valedictorian last year. I approached with my practiced professional smile, the one that had helped me extract confessions from embezzling executives. What a lovely ceremony, Mrs. Henderson gushed. Harold, you must be so proud. I love how your whole family coordinated for photographs. Everyone looks so distinguished. We believe in presenting ourselves properly, Harold replied proudly. Family reputation is everything. I excused myself to check my phone, where missed calls from my colleague James waited. James, I said quietly. What's the status? We got the final documentation this morning. His voice was tight with excitement. Kate, this is bigger than we thought. The pattern goes back 12 years, and we're talking nearly $2 million in diverted funds. I glanced at Harold posing for photographs with Sophia, David, and his wife Margaret, the perfect family portrait he'd orchestrated. Send everything to my secure email. I'll review it tonight. This goes public Monday morning. The state attorney wants a press conference. I'm aware. The graduation party at Harold's mansion was exactly what I'd expected, catered by the country club, attended by all the right families, choreographed to showcase the Pemberton social standing. Harold had hired a professional photographer to document every moment. I moved through the evening like an observer, cataloging expensive furnishings and imported wines that would soon be scrutinized by federal investigators. The irony wasn't lost on me. Harold's obsession with a perfect family image was funded by money stolen from his employees' pension funds. Mom? Sophia appeared beside me on the marble terrace. Why didn't Marcus and Lily come today? I was looking forward to celebrating with them. The question hit harder than expected. Sophia genuinely cared about my children, often babysitting them despite her grandfather's obvious disapproval. Your grandfather felt the day should focus entirely on you, I said carefully. He told them they couldn't come because they might be distracting. Something like that. Sophia's expression darkened. That's horrible. They're my family too. Before I could respond, Harold's voice cut through the evening air. Catherine, come settle and debate. I found Harold surrounded by his usual admirers, all holding crystal glasses of imported scotch. We were discussing traditional family values, Harold announced grandly. I was explaining how some people understand preserving family legacy, while others are concerned with modern sensibilities. The subtle dig was aimed at my bringing children from a previous marriage into his family. Family legacy is indeed important, I agreed, using the professional tone I employed when delivering devastating audit results. Though I found the most interesting family stories involve secrets people work hardest to hide. Harold's smile faltered slightly. Fortunately, our family has always been transparent about our values. Transparency is valuable, I said, pulling out my phone as it buzzed. In fact, transparency will be very important for your family over the next few days. What do you mean? Monday morning tends to bring interesting news, I replied casually. Speaking of which, I should mention I have work obligations that might affect our family schedule this weekend. Harold waved dismissively. Surely whatever accounting work you do can wait. Actually, this particular case can't wait, I said, watching his face. It involves a significant financial fraud investigation, the kind that makes headlines when it involves prominent local businessmen. The conversation quieted as Harold's expression shifted from dismissive to wary. Anyone we might know? He asked slowly. I'm not at liberty to discuss details, I replied, but it involves systematic embezzlement from employee pension funds, the kind that destroys families and reputations. Color drained from Harold's face so quickly that someone asked if he was feeling well. David, Harold called across the room, his voice tight with forced casualness. Join us. My husband approached with Sophia, both looking curious about the sudden tension. Catherine was telling us about her work, Harold said, eyes never leaving my face. Something about a fraud investigation. Kate's one of the best forensic accountants in the state, David said proudly. She's exposed major cases. How fascinating, Harold whispered. This current case, it's local. Very local, I confirmed. The subject will be quite surprised to learn how thoroughly their activities have been documented. Harold excused himself abruptly, probably to review financial records or contact his lawyer. 20 minutes later, he returned looking pale and shaken. He approached me away from the other guests. Catherine, we need to talk privately. Of course, I said pleasantly, though anything we discuss might be relevant to an ongoing investigation. He led me to his study, walls lined with awards celebrating his community service and business success. How long have you known? He asked without preamble. Known what, Harold? Don't play games. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I know Pemberton Industrial Solutions has been systematically diverting funds from employee pension accounts for 12 years, I said calmly. I know those funds maintained your lifestyle, funded political contributions, and paid expenses your legitimate income couldn't support. Harold sank into his leather chair, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. I know the State Commerce Commission flagged your company 6 months ago, and I was assigned to investigate. I continued. I know you've stolen nearly $2 million from people who trusted you. You've been investigating me for 6 months. I've been investigating Pemberton Industrial Solutions. Discovering my father-in-law was the subject was professionally awkward. Why didn't you recuse yourself? Because the evidence was too clear and the harm too significant. Those pension funds represent hundreds of families' life savings. Harold buried his face in his hands. What happens now? The state attorney's office announces charges Sunday evening. You'll be arrested Monday morning. Can't we work something out? I can pay back the money. Harold, I said quietly, you spent this morning telling me my children weren't good enough to be photographed with your family. You spent 3 years making it clear you consider us beneath your standards. Did you think I would compromise a federal investigation to protect your reputation? David doesn't know yet. I continued. I plan to tell him tonight. Sophia deserves to finish celebrating before her world falls apart. She'll lose her college funding. The house, everything. You should have considered those consequences before deciding that a perfect family image was more important than basic honesty. Harold looked up with red-rimmed eyes. What do you want from me? I want you to understand that family isn't about image or social standing or curated photographs. It's about loyalty, respect, and dignity. You never learned that lesson, and now it's too late. The arrest made national news, given Harold's community profile. The story dominated local coverage for weeks, with reporters detailing how a respected businessman had systematically stolen from employee retirement funds to maintain his lavish lifestyle. David struggled with the betrayal and disappointment, but our marriage grew stronger as we navigated the crisis together. Sophie deferred college for a year and moved in with us while working to save money for tuition. The most significant change came the following Thanksgiving, which we hosted at our modest suburban home. Around our kitchen table sat David, Sophia, Marcus, Lily, my sister's family, and 2 of Sophia's friends whose own families had been affected by Harold's crimes, but who'd found forgiveness and friendship in the aftermath. I'm grateful for honesty, Sophia said when we went around the table sharing what we were thankful for. Even when it's difficult and changes everything you thought you knew. I'm grateful for real family, Marcus added, looking around the table at faces that represented love rather than social status. Not the kind you have to pretend for. When my turn came, I looked at the mismatched plates, the grocery store flowers, and the faces of people who'd chosen to be here not for image or obligation, but for genuine care and connection. I'm grateful for the truth, I said simply, and for the courage to stand by it, even when it costs everything you thought you wanted. David squeezed my hand under the table, and I knew that we'd finally built the kind of family that no amount of money could buy, and no investigation could destroy. Harold served 6 years in federal prison. The pension funds were partially recovered through asset forfeiture, though many employees still lost significant portions of their retirement savings. But our family, the real one built on honesty and love rather than carefully curated images, emerged stronger than any photograph could ever capture.